Libra Marketing Show. And today we're going to be talking about what happens when somebody opts in or they respond to your ad or they visit your website and they're looking for information. What happens to that person? When do they get a response? Do they get a response instantly, right now, when they're looking, when they're interested? Or do they have to wait? During which time, maybe they start doing other things or they get distracted or they forget that they were ever interested in the first place. Today, we're going to be talking about instant response. And obviously, the problem is that we're all busy. We've got lots of stuff going on in our world, in our days. As humans, we just cannot be there 24/7, even if we're supposed to be there 24/7. I know a lot of us are in 24-hour businesses, and we may even be getting phone calls from customers at 3 o'clock in the morning, like, oh my gosh, something's gone wrong. But, for most of us, being available 24/7 is just not a reality. We have to sleep. We have to sometimes take a break, go on vacation, pick up our kids from school, whatever it may be. Not all, not humans can't just be available all the time. So what do we do about that? There's some really cool stuff that we can do now to make sure that even if we're not able to be available 24/7, that our customers are still attended to, our prospective customers are still followed up with in a timely manner, instantly, when they are ready to give us their attention. I don't know about you, but I have a lot going on in my day. And, there's been times even when I remember I had a meeting coming up in 15 minutes and my reminder went off and said, hey, you have a meeting coming up in 15 minutes. And within those 15 minutes, I got reabsorbed back into doing something and just totally forgot, and that was just 15 minutes. So our customers are dealing with the same busy day. They've got lots of stuff vying for their attention. They have responsibilities. They have busy online lives. Humans were not really designed to be bombarded with the amount of information that we are bombarded with now as human beings. We evolved as, I guess, hunter-gatherers or whatever it may be, where we were looking at trees and we were looking at, a few people in our community, not, this bombardment of constant advertising and messages and emails and phone calls and text messages. I don't know about you, but my text messages are getting pretty full now. Also, I'm getting spam calls. My boyfriend and I like to call it Spamela. But, so how do you make sure that when your customer is interested and when they are paying attention, that you are going to be able to pay attention to them? Well, we've got this cool thing now. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called AI. And it's pretty amazing. It is pretty awesome. And the stuff that you can do with it now is mind-blowing. So I'm going to show you a little demo here of a chat AI. And, this one is on my website, but imagine this. You are running digital ads. Somebody clicks your digital ads, they opt in, and instead of having to wait 3 hours or 3 days or even 3 minutes for a reply, they get an instant follow-up. And the instant follow-up engages with them. It answers their call, their questions. It crushes their objections, and it books them into an appointment with your sales team or with you. So instead of their response going into an inbox and then sort of getting maybe a series of emails from you, or getting, heaven forbid, forgotten about, they get immediately engaged and booked into a call. So let's take a quick look here. Let's see. Now this is maybe going to look a little funny because I shared my entire screen. Oh. Oh, excuse me. Oh boy. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's see. So I'm gonna start a new chat because I had been in here already. particular questions, and we want it to even do conditional logic. So in and they said, I'm looking for information on such product. Maybe it matters depending on their industry. So maybe next it asks industry they're in, and then depending on their answer, continue the conversation in a different way, which we like a branching logic. Intent into booked calls. Most companies obsess over getting more traffic, more ads, more content, more campaigns. Very few focus on what happens in the critical seconds immediately following after somebody shows interest. That gap between the click and the conversation is where pipeline is won or lost. Why is it not letting me advance? Oh, something weird is happening with my connection, I think. Oh, there we are. Okay, so that. The hidden problem with lead generation. A lead, they click your ad or they submit a form, and then nothing happens for 30 minutes or an hour, and sometimes longer. Maybe a lead submitted their information because they needed something right now. They're looking for something. And your team is still catching up on notifications from earlier in the day or yesterday or 2 days ago. The average B2B response time is over 42 hours. So most buyers, they may have moved on long before that because, they just want their problem solved. They may not actually care who solves their problem. They're just looking for a solution. So buyers are most interested the moment they reach out. When they are reaching out, they are actively thinking about the problem. They are attention focused on the problem right now. They are actively looking for answers. That moment is uniquely powerful and it passes quickly. They may be paying attention. They may be looking for answers on that problem right now. 15 minutes later, it may be a different story. Maybe they're in a meeting now. Maybe they went to lunch. Maybe they are working on a presentation or a proposal or who knows what. But research confirms, studies consistently show that engagement drops sharply within minutes of a form submission. The window of peak interest is narrow. Companies that respond inside that window convert at dramatically higher rates than those that wait. So attention is fully focused on the problem in that moment. Motivation to take action is at its highest, and competing priorities haven't yet pulled them away. Here we go. Oh, I'm not sure why it did that. Something's going on. I think it might be my. The issue usually isn't a lack of leads, it's delayed engagement. So by the time most teams respond, even well-intentioned, high-performing teams, the buyer has already opened 3 competitor tabs or they're over there shopping. They're doing what they do. Maybe they watched a demo video from another vendor and they've mentally moved on. They are just looking for the right solution. They don't really care about you or your company or who you are. They just want to solve the problem. And they want to find the best solution. And it takes 30 to 90 minutes to respond during business hours. And leads contacted within 5 minutes are 21 times more likely to convert than those contacted after just 30 minutes. The reality is most companies never achieve consistent sub 5 minute response because their process depends entirely on humans, which is, of course, normal. We are humans. But why does this happen? Your team is talented, they're motivated, they're working hard, they're putting in the effort, but they're also managing meetings, client deliverables, Slack threads, back-to-back calls, whatever it is going on in their day. When a new lead notification arrives, it competes with everything else happening in real time in their day. And lead response isn't the only priority, which means it often isn't the immediate priority. And that delay repeated across hundreds of leads quietly erodes your pipeline. You may have back-to-back meetings going on and the reps are doing as best they can, but there's just other things going on in their day. They may have too many notifications. Their leads are getting buried under dozens of, pings in their system. Their emails are coming in, text messages coming in. They've got to pay attention to all of it. And so they have competing priorities. And if they already have client relationships that they're managing, that often typically takes precedence over inbound lead follow-up. And this is where the pipeline quietly breaks. Leads rarely disappear dramatically. There's no single catastrophic failure moment that you can point to and fix. Instead, they fade away slowly because momentum is lost. Follow-up just doesn't happen. The buyer's attention drifts towards a competitor who was perhaps faster. Small delays compound into large revenue consequences that are invisible in any single week, but devastating over a quarter. The pipeline doesn't collapse all at once. It just is kind of leaking. It's like a leaky bucket of leads. And it's happening one missed conversation at a time. Just pumping more traffic into the pipeline isn't what's going to solve this. It's not that you just need more leads on the front end. It's not that you just need more traffic. When conversion rates are disappointing, the default response is just to buy more traffic. If we get more traffic, then hopefully a higher percentage of them will convert. But more ad spend, more content, more campaigns feeding the top of the funnel, you're just pouring more traffic into a slow, leaky bucket system. It doesn't fix the conversion down the road. It just creates more missed opportunities at a higher cost. The problem isn't volume, it's velocity. And no amount of additional traffic necessarily solves a velocity problem. And so the math is simple. If your response system converts about 5% of leads, doubling your traffic gets you 2 times the missed opportunities alongside 2 times the booked calls. But what if instead of just doubling the traffic, you also doubled your conversion rate? What if you were able to just convert more of those leads? Can you imagine the impact that that would have? So the real goal here is having faster conversations. And speed is the new competitive advantage. The companies winning today aren't always generating more leads than their competitors. They are simply starting conversations faster. They reach buyers while intent is still high, while the problem feels urgent, and while the buyer is still actively looking for a solution. And that speed translates directly into higher close rates and more predictable pipeline. So what happens when you respond instantly? A fast response doesn't just improve metrics, it changes how your buyers feel about your company before the sales conversation even begins, because they feel attended to, they feel seen. The buyer feels like their inquiry was received and valued immediately. They feel prioritized. An instant response signals that their business matters to you. You're serious about helping them. And they feel supported. They feel guided rather than left waiting in uncertainty. And, that's really important because they're going to judge you based on the experience that they have, because this may be the only experience they've had so far with your business. And, if they feel like they're not even getting responded to in the sales process, what are they going to assume about, what if we start working with them? Are they going to be responsive to us? And then they feel engaged. Momentum builds immediately, increasing the likelihood of booking a call. So, how and why does timing change the conversation or the conversion actually? The first response sets the frame. The first response a buyer receives doesn't just answer a question, it shapes their entire perception of your brand, your responsiveness, your professionalism, and whether they can trust you enough to take the next step. Speed creates influence before the sales conversation even starts. So it's like wearing your best business suit to a job interview. They're like, wow, they responded right away. They engaged me in conversation. They answered my questions. These guys are good. And what that first moment determines is buyer perception. Responsive companies just feel more credible. Trust level, speed signals that you value their time. And urgency, fast engagement keeps momentum alive. And direction, the first message steers the conversation forward. Companies that control this moment convert at significantly higher rates than those that cede it to a waiting screen. Most teams, human teams, just cannot respond instantly, consistently. Even exceptional, highly motivated teams struggle to deliver sub 60-second response times at scale. It's not a people problem, it's a systems problem. Humans have real bandwidth limits, real lives. The modern work environment is designed to fragment attention. We have just too much going on. And so that results in response delays, even with good intentions. Internal tasks delay lead follow up by 30 to 90 minutes on average. And missed notifications. Lead alerts arrive during meetings, deep work, or off hours and get buried. So you end up with inconsistent follow up. Without a system, some leads receive multiple touches while others may actually receive none. And this is where AI chat changes everything. Not immediately, not later, immediately, because AI chat engages leads the instant they submit a form or click an ad, not after someone notices a notification, not after a rep finishes their current call. The moment a lead raises their hand, AI is already there. This single capability eliminates the most damaging gap in the entire demand generation process. So, what can AI chat actually do? AI chat isn't just a simple chatbot that asks, hey, how can I help you today? It's a guided engagement system that moves buyers through a meaningful conversation from first touch to booked call automatically. And as I was mentioning, we can actually build the conversation flow so that the conversation goes according to a certain plan. So if you're trying to find out, hey, are you looking for support or are you looking for more information about our services? You could actually route them into a support versus sales workflow where the conversation flows in a different way depending on what they're looking for and what they need. So you're able to answer questions and respond to common queries instantly in natural language. You can converse naturally, guide buyers through a back and forth that feels human, and you can guide next steps, move buyers toward a decision or meeting with structured prompts. And then you can book calls, automatically schedule meetings directly into your calendar. So you can imagine if you're running digital ads and somebody has found your ad online somewhere and they respond, they probably were doing something else with their day. They're looking for information and they responded to the ad because they were interested in what they saw. And so if they then opt in and it's crickets, like they didn't hear anything back, they go about their day, they do something else, and maybe they forget that they ever were interested in the first place. So being able to respond right away with a natural conversation that can answer their questions, it can even squash objections, which, I've actually seen examples where humans were actually way more honest with an AI than they may have even been with a human, because if they know it's an AI, they're like, well, it's not going to judge me. It doesn't have any feelings or thoughts about what I tell it. So I can just be honest. So they're actually really good at pulling information pulling information out of prospective customers. They're really good at crushing objections, which you can actually train them to be able to crush objections. And they don't have anything emotionally going on. They're just doing their job. Unlike us humans, where, we don't want to upset someone, we don't want to be too pushy. We don't want to, all these things that we have going on in our minds. And of course, like, the AI is not going to be pushy, but they're always going to represent your company in the most professional light possible. They're going to be spot on 24/7. They're going to do their job, do it well, and book calls into your calendar. And AI keeps the conversation moving. So most leads don't need a full sales call in the first 60 seconds. They just need something much simpler. They just need a reason to stay engaged, a clear answer to their immediate question, and a sense that they're being guided toward a solution. And AI delivers exactly that instantly. It provides the micro moments of reassurance that keep a buyer moving forward rather than dropping off. It answers their questions immediately. It gives them clarity on whether your solution actually fits their needs. Like maybe they're wondering, hey, do you even do this thing that I'm interested in? And, if they don't find the answer to that quickly, they might just move on because they didn't know that you offered that. It offers people reassurance that they've reached the right company and gives them direction on the logical next step to take. So, it's like a guide. It's there making sure they get the right answers, they get their questions answered, they get the right information that they're looking for. And it helps guide them to take the next step, whatever that next step is with you. So AI handles common objections automatically. The questions that slow down or kill early stage conversations are almost always the same: pricing, timelines, availability, fit. These are predictable questions. They don't require a senior sales rep to answer them, but they absolutely must be answered quickly. So, pricing. AI can provide context on investment ranges, packages, and how pricing works without requiring a call. You don't have to give away your pricing, but somebody may just be wondering, like, can we even afford this? And like, what kinds of businesses or companies do you help? So they can know if it's even an option. They might be wondering about availability. Do you have availability to help somebody with this right now, or are we going to have to wait? They might be wondering about timelines. They can set expectations on onboarding, delivery, or implementation timelines up front. So maybe they're wondering, like, hey, if we come to you, like, how long is it going to be to get started? Or what should we expect? People just want to know, like, what would working with you look like? And then next steps. AI guides buyers toward a clear, low friction action, always keeping momentum alive. So if, maybe for some people, they need a sales conversation. And so maybe for others, they need a support conversation. So if they're looking for sales help, you can route them into a conversation flow that answers their questions, crushes their objections, and books them into a call automatically. If they're not looking for sales support or just a general inquiry, or they want to know your office hours or who knows what, You can have a separate conversation flow for that doesn't, isn't focused on booking them into a call. So, you can actually build like a very responsive conversation that's and AI assistant who's able to help the people who are interacting with your business to get what they're looking for and get that fast. And follow up is where most leads are lost. Many buyers, they don't book on their first visit. They're just kind of looking for information. Maybe they get distracted, they get pulled into another meeting, or they simply need a few hours to think about it. Or maybe they were like sitting in the doctor's office, like just scrolling through information or going on social media, and they found your ad. Or maybe they looked up your website and then they got called into the doctor's office and now they put their phone away. So it's not necessarily that they're not interested, but without a structured follow-up sequence, people who are still interested, who may have dropped off the conversation, they quietly disappear. Not because they lost interest, not because it wasn't the right fit, or perhaps any other reason, but because no one reached back out at the right moment when they were available to talk about it. Nobody reached out to re-engage them. And studies show that 80% of sales require 5 or more follow-up touch points. Yet most companies follow up fewer than 2 times before giving up. So, if instead of 2 times follow-up, if you were sure to have 5 follow-up touch points, what would that probably do for your business? And AI really can help solve this problem. AI eliminates the most common failure point in lead nurture, the follow-up that never happens because a rep got busy. And automated follow-up sequences ensure that every lead receives a structured, timely re-engagement without any manual effort from your team. So it can follow up in 1 hour, in 24 hours, in 48 hours. And if you're running digital ads and you're trying to book a call with the person who responded, and say, they chat in with you that they're responding and the bot engages with them, and then the lead goes cold. They stop responding. And, it may not be that they're not interested, but their kid just got a nosebleed and they had to go take care of their child, or they had to, there's a million things that are going on in our days. And if we stop responding, it may just be that it wasn't a good time. And so, continuing to follow up later gives you the opportunity to get back to that person when it may be a better time for them to respond and engage with you. So each follow-up message is contextual, conversational, and designed to move the buyer toward a booked call automatically at scale. And this creates consistency. The system never has a bad day. It never shows up late. It never doesn't feel good. It's AI. It doesn't get distracted. It never forgets to follow up. It prioritizes, every lead. Every single lead receives the same high quality, timely engagement, regardless of how busy the team is or what time of day it is. AI can answer 90 inquiries a minute. Like, it is not putting anyone on hold. It's just answering them and giving them the information that they need whenever they need it. So what every lead now receives, they get an immediate response. They get engaged within seconds of form submission, not minutes or hours. They get consistent engagement, the same quality, high quality conversation every time with no gaps or variance. And they get a structured follow-up, automated re-engagement sequences that run without any manual effort. So no one gets forgotten about. Everyone gets a professional conversation. They get an immediate conversation while they're paying attention, and they get followed up with. Better conversations create better pipeline. So when leads are engaged quickly and they're nurtured consistently and they're guided through a structured pathway, the downstream impact on a pipeline is significant and measurable. you can get 3 times the number of booked calls because you're not only immediately following up, you're immediately engaging the lead. You're then following up if they stop responding. So you get instant response that dramatically increases the likelihood a lead books a discovery call. You get 21 times higher conversion. Leads contacted within 5 minutes convert at 21 times the rate of leads contacted after just 30 minutes. So it really does make a huge difference. And then 40% pipeline growth. Companies using AI chat report significant pipeline increases without increasing ad spend. Pipeline becomes more predictable when the process that fills it consistent, fast, and systematic rather than dependent on human availability. So I mean, you have a system in place. It's an automated system. It's always on. It's 24/7, and it doesn't fail. AI is not replacing your team. A force multiplier. It's not a replacement. AI handles the speed, the consistency, the first touch engagement that humans struggle to deliver at scale. So your team handles what AI can't handle: the deep discovery, the human relationship side, the nuanced persuasion, the deep technical knowledge. The result is a system where AI qualifies and warms leads so that your sales reps can show up to conversations that are already moving in the right direction, spending their energy where it creates the most value. So instead of your representatives being, their job being lead generation, the leads are being generated and then they're handling the client relationships. AI handles the speed, the consistency, the first touch, and the follow up. The humans handle the high value conversations, the closing, and the relationship building. And winning companies build systems. High performing revenue teams don't rely on memory or willpower or perfect timing to convert leads. They build systems that guarantee response so that execution doesn't depend on whether the right person happened to see the notification at the right moment. And the lead is captured, the form is submitted, or the ad is clicked. The system activates immediately. The AI engages the lead instantly. The conversation begins within seconds. Questions are answered automatically. The call gets booked. So that conversation answers their questions, crushes their objections, and books them into a call. And, so you have calls coming in automatically with your sales reps where they can then handle the human relationship side. So the representative is receiving a warm lead. The chat can actually record the conversation and give the rep the information so that the rep is showing up to the call, understanding the context and ready for the buyer. They know what they were looking for. They know what their questions were. The AI has already asked the qualifying questions that are important for the sale. And so now when the human shows up, they're having an informed conversation. They're able to go maybe do a little research and they're ready to give the right answers to the person when they show up to the call. So let's take a look at what the old model looks like compared to the new model. So in the old model, somebody would click an ad. They would wait 30 to 90 minutes. The buyer would open competitors tabs. They continue their research. They keep looking for the solution. They're not just sitting around waiting for you. They want a solution to their problem. So they're going to continue doing whatever is required to get their problem solved. And the momentum may be lost. Maybe they find another solution. Maybe they decide not to worry about that right now. Maybe whatever it is, the lead goes cold. In the new model, a person clicks an ad. The AI engages them instantly. It answers their questions. It books them into a call automatically. And then A warm lead is handed off to the sales rep where they have the information that they need to be able to provide an informed conversation and make the sale. And even small timing improvements can have big impacts and create big results. So speed compounds. If every lead is getting a fast response, immediate engagement, it's going to have a meaningful impact on your conversion rates. Just a modest improvement in response time from 60 minutes to 60 seconds doesn't produce a modest improvement in results. It produces an exponential one because it affects every metric downstream. The engagement rate, the call booking rate, the show rate, the close rate, and even that person's perception of you and your business changes because they feel attended to. They feel like you were responsive. So you get more booked meetings. Faster engagement means more leads convert to scheduled calls before the momentum fades. And you get a higher conversion rate because leads engaged at peak intent convert significantly better than those contacted later. Just like me, where 15 minutes later, after I received a notification on my phone that I had a meeting coming up in 15 minutes, and I had already forgotten because I was engaged in doing something else by now. The same thing is going on with your customers. They're not just sitting around. Like, if they don't get the response, they're going to go do what's next. And so if they get an immediate response from you, you are talking to them when they are ready to pay attention. And at that moment, they have a higher intent to buy simply because they are paying attention to you right now. An hour later, even, they have moved on with their day. And, you may have lost that opportunity. And you get better pipeline quality. Faster conversations surface qualified buyers earlier, improving forecast accuracy. So, if every lead is getting an immediate response and they're getting qualified and they're getting booked into calls, you're just going to have, leads coming in faster because they're not waiting for a response. You're going to have a better conversion rate because you got to that lead when they were ready to pay attention to you. And people are going to be booking into calls because nobody's getting looked over or forgotten about. There's no leaky bucket of leads. So if you'd like to see this in action, if you want to see how AI chat can actually turn missed leads into booked calls, companies across the industry are using AI chat to respond instantly, follow up automatically, and book more calls without adding headcount. The system runs 24/7. It handles every lead with the same quality and hands your team warm, qualified conversations every single time. So if that's something you'd like to know more about, type AI in the chat and I'll show you exactly how companies are doing this today and how quickly it can be working for your pipeline. So if that's something that you'd be interested in exploring, just type AI in the comments below. All right, so the final thought. Your buyers are already raising their hands. They're interested. They're looking for solutions. Every form submission, every ad click, every chat inquiry is a buyer signaling that they have a problem and they're actively looking for a solution. They're ready. The only question is whether your system is ready to meet them in that moment or whether it lets that moment quietly pass. The companies that win aren't always the ones with the best product. They're the ones that show up first, respond the fastest, and make buyers feel like they matter. That's a systems problem, and it's solvable. Especially in this age we are in now, this is a highly solvable issue where you have an opportunity to make a big impact for your business, where you can get more leads, more conversations, faster follow-up, more consistent follow-up, and make sure that your immediately engaging with every lead. All right, we've got this. Trying to switch back. Let's see. You can engage leads instantly and immediately, so you can enjoy higher conversions, make more sales, and have a big revenue impact on your business. If you are running digital ads, this is especially important because if somebody is paying attention to you now, they might not be paying attention to you even 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, 3 hours later. They have moved on with their day. So we want to make sure that every lead is followed up with, every lead is engaged, every lead is booked into a call. Again, my name is Laura Kamrath. I'm CEO of Zebra Marketing, and we help B2B companies to implement digital marketing systems to help them get more leads and generate predictable hockey stick growth. I'll be live here every Wednesday typically. Today, today is Friday, and I had a conflict on Wednesday, so today we're doing it on Friday. But most weeks I'll be live here on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central Time, and we'll be talking about how to implement automation, AI, and growth-oriented strategies to help your companies succeed, grow, and hit your targets month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. Make sure that your leads are coming in, that they are converting into customers, and then that you're keeping those customers happy and engaged and attended to so that they stick around, you can grow your business. All right. So if this has been a helpful conversation for you, please like, share, drop a comment. It helps us engage better as a community. And I will be back here to check the comments. So if you do have a question, drop a comment below and I'll be back to answer your questions. All right. I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great weekend, and I will see you soon.